بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد. We continue with the chapter in regards to taqwa and in regards to leaving that which is doubtful. And we went over the hadith yesterday, hadith reported by Nu'man bin Bashir radiallahu anh, in which he reports that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيِّن وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّن وَبَيْنَهُمَا مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. The halal is clear, the haram is clear, and then there's the gray area which there are doubtful things in. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith that we reported yesterday, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. A person who falls into or dwells into the gray area, near the boundaries, near the limits, then وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ, this will lead him to haram. The next hadith reported by Anas radiallahu anh, reported both by Imam Bukhari as well as Imam Muslim, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وجد تمرة في الطريق فقال لولا أني أخاف أن تكون من الصدقة لأكلتها متفق عليه. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he once found a date that was in the street, and so this date was not really belonging to anyone. Maybe it had fallen off a tree, maybe it's something that had fallen off somewhere. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if it wasn't that I feared Allah, and if it wasn't that I feared that this date was from the dates of sadaqah, then I would have eaten it. And so this just shows that the Prophet ﷺ, it wasn't known where that date was from, but it was a possibility it was from sadaqah. And the Prophet ﷺ and the family of the Prophet ﷺ not being from amongst those who take sadaqah. So the Prophet ﷺ leaving that because that date was in that gray area. It was doubtful whether that date was halal for him or not, so the Prophet ﷺ left it, and he said, if I hadn't feared that this date was from the sadaqah, then I would have eaten it. The next hadith reported by Nawas ibn Sam'an radiallahu anh, he says, Al-birru husnul khuluq. The Prophet ﷺ said that righteousness, the true reality of righteousness is in husnul akhlaq, in your characteristics, in the way you deal with people. وَالْإِثْمُ مَا حَاكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ. And a sin is that which gives you trouble in your heart. You know you've committed a sin when you feel it in your heart. You feel bad. There's a sense of remorse and regret. And the Prophet ﷺ said, and a sin is that وَكَرِهْتَ أَن يَطَّلِعَ عَلَيْهِ النَّاسِ. A sin is that you fear or you dislike that people find out about what you've committed. So here the Prophet ﷺ is indicating towards sometimes something that's doubtful. It's in that gray area. In our hearts, deep in our hearts, we may know that this is something I shouldn't do, even though maybe we find excuses for ourselves, right? You can go and look for fatwas and look for opinions and look for different avenues to beat around the bush and say it's halal, or it's not something that's doubtful. But true, deep in your heart, you have that sense of regret and remorse. That's a sin. And so this is something that a person should stay away from the general advice of the Prophet ﷺ, دَعْ مَا يُرِيبُكَ إِلَى مَا لَا يُرِيبُكَ. To stay away from anything and everything that is doubtful because it may affect your iman. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to act upon what has been said. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to forgive us, to keep us and our families away from all harm. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.